Hey friends, happy Tuesday. We are going to try to get some reading done with little Grace here also. We'll see how this goes. Grace, can you say hi to everybody? Can you smile? No? Smile. I guess that works. Okay. Wasn't very polite, Grace. Okay, so yesterday we were reading and I asked you guys to think about why you think Ivan was comparing himself to a sheriff or wondering what it would be like to be a sheriff. He kind of talks about how the sheriff gets rid of the bad guys, right? Like, what do you think he means by that? We kind of talked about it. Now, hopefully you were thinking in your brain and you were thinking about how Mac is not necessarily a good guy, right? He's not very nice to the animals. He doesn't take care of them very well. He is talking about feeding them less and turning the heat off at nighttime to save some money, and then the animals are going to be cold. That's not very nice, right? So I think that Ivan was thinking that if he was a sheriff, maybe he could get rid of Mac, right? And in the back of his brain right now, he's trying to think about how to get Ruby out of this circus, because he made a promise to Stella before she passed away that Ruby would not live her whole life at the circus the way that Stella did. And so every single day he's constantly thinking about how it is that he can get her out of there. So I think that he was trying to think about how, wow, if I was a sheriff and I could get rid of Mac, I could probably get Ruby out of here, right? He could fulfill his promise, because keeping a promise is important, isn't it? And you can tell it's important to Ivan. He's very worried about making sure that that promise comes true. So the page that we're starting on today is with the section is called Ad. Good news, huh? Bob says when Mac's out of earshot. Looks like you might be getting some more supplies. I don't want to paint for Mac, I say. I'm painting for Ruby. You can do both, Bob says. You're an artist after all. While I watch the movie, I try to come up with a new hiding place for my paintings. Maybe I think I could fold them once they're dry and stuff them into knot tag. It's a long movie. At the end, the sheriff marries the woman who owns the saloon, which is a watering hole for humans, but not horses. It's been a long time since I've seen a Western that was also a romance. I liked that movie, I say to Bob. Too many horses, not enough dogs, he comments, and an ad comes on. I don't understand ads. They're not like Westerns where you know who the bad guy is supposed to be. And they're hardly ever romantic unless the man and the woman are brushing their teeth before they face lick. I watch an ad for underarm deodorant. How do you know who's who if they don't smell? I asked Bob. Humans reek, Bob replies. They just don't notice because they have incompetent noses. Another ad comes on. I see children and their parents buying tickets, just like the tickets Mac sells. They laugh, enjoy their ice cream cones as they walk down a path. They pause to watch two sleepy-eyed cats, huge and striped, dozing in long grass. Tigers. I know because I saw them on a nature show once. Words flash on the screen, accompanied by a drawing of a red giraffe. The giraffe vanishes, and I see a human family staring at another kind of family, elephants, old and young. They're surrounded by rocks and trees and grass and room to wander. It's a wild cage, a zoo. I see where it begins and where it ends, the wall that says you are this and we are that, and that's how it will always be. It's not a perfect place. Even in just a few fleeting seconds on my TV screen, I can see that. A perfect place would not need walls. But it's the place I mean. I gaze at the elephants and then I look over at Ruby, small and alone. Before the ad ends, I try to remember every last detail. Rocks, trees, tails, trunks. It's the picture I need to paint. It's different now when I paint. I'm not painting what I see in front of me, a banana, an apple. I'm painting what I see in my head, things that don't exist, at least not yet. I pull out knot tag stuffing. Carefully, I fill her with my paintings, hiding them so Mac won't sell them. She's large, bigger than Bob, but I still have to crumple a few of them. Bob tries to settle on her for a nap. You've killed her, he complains. I had to, I say. I miss your stomach, Bob admits. It's so spacious. When Julia arrives, she notices that I've used up my paints and paper. Wow, Julia shakes her head. You are one serious artist, Ivan. My finger painting has sold for $40 with frame. Mac is happy. He brings me a huge pile of paper and big buckets of paint. Get to work, he says. I paint for Mac during the day and for Ruby at night. I nap when I can. But my nighttime picture isn't quite right. It's big, that's for sure. When I place all the pieces on the floor of my cage side by side, the cement is almost completely covered, but something is still missing. Bob says I'm crazy. There's Ruby, he says, pointing with his nose. There's the zoo. There are other elephants. What's wrong with it? It needs one more thing, I say. Bob groans. You're being a temperamental artist. What could be missing? So here's Ivan. He's painting. And then here's little Ruby sleeping. Such a cute little baby. Just like you, Grace. Okay. I stare at the huge expanse of colors and shapes. I don't know how to explain to Bob that it isn't done yet. I'll just have to wait, I say at last. Something will come to me and then I'll know when my painting is finally ready. During the last show of the day, Ruby seems tired. When she stumbles, Mac reaches for the claw stick. I tense, waiting for her to strike back. Ruby doesn't even flinch. She just keeps plodding along, and after a while, Snickers jumps onto her back. I lie in my cage with Bob on my stomach. We are watching Julia do her homework. She doesn't seem to be enjoying it. I can tell because she is sighing more than usual. Again, for the 100th time, or maybe the 1000th, I wonder what is missing from my painting. And for the 100th time, or maybe the 1000th, I don't have an answer. Dad, Julia says as George passes by with a mop, can I ask you a question? May I? George corrects. Ask away. Julia glances down at a piece of paper. What's the difference between the word spelled P-R-I-N-C-I-P-A-L and the one spelled P-R-I-N-C-I-P-L-E? The first one is the head of a school, like Miss Garcia, or Dr. Wright in our case. The second one is a belief that helps you know what's right or wrong, he smiles. For example, it's against my principles to do my daughter's homework for her. With a laugh, George heads off. Oops, I skipped a line. Julia groans. If I'm going to be an artist when I grow up, why do I need to know how to spell? With a laugh, George heads off. Poor Julia, I think. Gorillas get by just fine without learning how to spell. All those endless letters, those sticks and circles and zigzags, filling up books and magazines, billboards and candy wrappers. Words. Humans love their words. I leap up. Bob goes flying straight into my pool. A word. You know how I feel about wet feet, Bob yells. He scrambles out of the water, shaking each foot in dismay. I look out my window at the billboard. I can still hear Mac's voice in my head. Come to the Exa 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan, Mighty Silverback. I count to 12 and then I count again just to be sure. I lay out 16 pieces of poster board, 4 down, 4 across, a perfect square, or what we would call an array in 3rd grade. What are you up to? Bob demands. I'm guessing it doesn't involve sleep. It has to do with the billboard. That signs a monstrosity, particularly since I'm not featured. I grab a bucket of red paint. You're not on the billboard because you're not in the show, I point out. Technically, I don't even live here, Bob says with a sniff. I am homeless by choice. I know, I'm just saying. I study the billboard, then I make 2 fat lines like broom handles. Another fat line connects them. I stand back. What do you think? What do you think, Grace? What is it? No. Wait, let me guess. A ladder? Not a ladder. I say a letter. At least I think that's what they're called. I have to make 3 more. Bob cuddles up next to Not Tag. Why, he asks, yawning. Because then I'll have a word, a very important word. I dip my fingers into the paint. What word, Bob asks. Home. Bob closes his eyes. That's not so important, he says. All day long, I knuckle walk circles around my cage. I'm so nervous I can't nap. I can't even eat. Well, not very much anyway. I'm ready to show Julia what I've made. It has to be Julia. She's an artist. Surely she'll truly look at my painting. She won't notice the smudges and tears. She won't care if the pieces don't quite fit together. She'll see past all of that. Surely Julia will see what I've imagined. I watch Ruby trudge sullenly through the 4 o'clock show, and I wonder what will happen if I fail. What if I can't make Julia understand? But of course I know the answer. Nothing. Nothing will happen. Ruby will remain the main attraction at the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, conveniently located off I-95 with 2 shows at 2, 4, and 7, 365 days a year, year after year after year. Are you drooling? This is going to be a real exciting video today, Grace. You drooling and burping, being crazy. It's time to show my work. The mall is silent, except for Thelma the macaw, who is practicing a new phrase. Uh-oh. Julia is finishing her homework. George is sweeping outside. Mac has gone home for the night. I grab Not Tag and carefully pull out the folded papers. So many paintings. Page after page, piece after piece of my giant puzzle. I pound on my glass. And Julia glances over. Fingers trembling, I hold up one of my paintings. It's brown and green, a corner piece. Julia smiles. I display another picture, and then another, and another, and another. Each one a tiny part of the whole. Julia looks confused. But what is it, she asked. She shrugs. It doesn't matter, it's just pretty as it is. Uh-oh, says Thelma. No, I think no. It does matter. That is where we're going to stop today. So to paint the picture, haha, see what I did there? Ivan is in his cage. He's finally finished his picture. He's using a lot of different posters to make one big picture, right? And so it's a whole bunch of little pieces that he basically created an array out of, right? Just like an array like we would when we're doing area or multiplication. And he put them all together, kind of like a quilt, to make a big picture. And he's showing Julia one by one by one, okay? And she's not really understanding what it is exactly. So she says, that's not really important. It looks pretty, right? And Ivan says, no, it is important, because he even has a word that he wrote down, right? He's trying to make a point to Julia, and it has to do with getting Ruby out of this place. So I want you guys to think, I want you to predict what you think is going to happen next in this book. Is Julia going to get the point? Is she not going to get the point? Is she going to understand what he's saying? Is something going to happen because of Ivan's photo? Or do you think everything's going to stay the same, just like he said, year after year after year, with Ruby being the star of the show? So I want you to think about it, and then you can tell a friend, tell a parent, message Miss Duncan on Class Dojo, but tell somebody what you think is going to happen before we read tomorrow, and then tomorrow we will find out what she thinks. Can you say bye, Miss Grace? Say bye. You are not wanting to smile today, huh? Oh, there's kind of a smile, a partial smile. She used all of her smiles on Google Meet today. We'll see you guys tomorrow.